I've always loved carnivals. The bright lights, the smell of fried food, the sound of laughter. There was something about it that felt like a step into a world where anything was possible. So when a traveling carnival set up in our small town, I convinced my best friend, Sarah, to go with me. We had no idea what we were walking into. It was a Friday night, the perfect time for some fun. The air was cool and the sky was dark, save for the dazzling lights of the carnival rides and booths. As soon as we entered, the energy was intoxicating. People were everywhere, their faces glowing in the carnival light, laughter echoing all around us. "Let's try the haunted house," Sarah suggested, her eyes gleaming with excitement. I wasn't so sure. Haunted houses always creeped me out, but I didn't want to seem like a wimp. Besides, it was just a carnival attraction, right? What could go wrong? We made our way through the crowd, passing by the Ferris wheel and food stands until we reached a tent that stood apart from the rest. It was an old, weathered tent, much darker and more sinister than the other attractions. The sign above the entrance read, "The Carnival of Shadows, dare to enter." "I don't like the look of this place," I muttered, already feeling a knot forming in my stomach. "Come on, it's just for fun," Sarah teased, pulling me toward the entrance. Reluctantly, I followed her inside. The moment we stepped in, the noise from the outside world disappeared, swallowed by the thick darkness that enveloped us. The air was damp, and a musty odor filled my nose. It felt like we had stepped into another world, far removed from the cheerful carnival outside. The first room was typical enough: cheap props, plastic skeletons, and flickering lights. I relaxed a little, telling myself it was just a silly attraction. But as we ventured deeper, the atmosphere shifted. The rooms became darker, the air heavier, and the sounds, low, almost imperceptible whispers, seemed to come from every corner. "Do you hear that?" I whispered to Sarah. She nodded, her face pale. "Yeah, it's weird." The further we went, the more unsettling it became. The props looked too real, the shadows seemed to move on their own, and the whispers grew louder, more distinct. I could have sworn I heard my name in the mix, a soft voice calling from the shadows. At one point, we entered a narrow hallway, lined with mirrors on both sides. Our reflections stared back at us, but something wasn't right. In the reflection, I saw us walking, but behind us, there was someone else. A tall, shadowy figure stood just a few feet behind, watching us. "Sarah," I choked, grabbing her arm. "I see it," she whispered, her voice barely audible. We turned around, expecting to find someone standing there, but the hallway was empty. My heart pounded in my chest as fear crept up my spine. This wasn't normal. This wasn't part of the carnival. "We need to get out of here," I said, my voice shaky. We hurried down the hallway, but no matter how far we walked, it felt like we weren't making any progress. The mirrors seemed to stretch on forever, and the figure in the reflection was getting closer, its features still obscured in shadow. Suddenly, the lights flickered and went out completely, plunging us into total darkness. Panic set in. I fumbled for my phone, using the flashlight to cut through the pitch black. The hallway was gone. We were standing in a room now, completely different from the one we'd just been in. "How did we?" Sarah started, but her voice trailed off as we both heard it. A soft laugh, almost childlike, echoing from somewhere in the darkness. We turned toward the sound, and there, standing in the faint glow of my phone's light, was a figure. Not a prop, not a mannequin, but a person. A man, dressed in a faded carnival suit, his face hidden behind a porcelain mask. He didn't move, didn't speak. He just stood there, staring at us with eyes that weren't visible, but felt as though they were boring into our souls. "We need to go," I yelled, grabbing Sarah's arm and pulling her toward what I hoped was the exit. We ran blindly through the darkness, the man's footsteps echoing behind us. Every time I looked back, he was closer, the white of his mask glowing in the dim light. My heart was racing, my breath coming in ragged gasps as we searched desperately for a way out. Finally, we saw it, a faint glow ahead, the exit sign. We sprinted toward it, bursting through the door and back into the cool night air of the carnival. But something was wrong. The carnival was different. The rides were silent, the booths empty, and the lights dimmed to an eerie, unnatural glow. There were no people, no sounds, just an overwhelming sense of dread that settled over everything. "Where is everyone?" Sarah whispered, her voice trembling. "I don't know," I replied, trying to calm my pounding heart. We walked through the carnival, but it was like we had entered a ghost town. The bright, cheerful atmosphere was gone, replaced by something darker, something that didn't belong. Then I saw him again, the man with the mask. He was standing at the edge of the carnival, motionless, watching us. As soon as our eyes met, he lifted his hand and waved slowly, as if saying goodbye. "We have to leave," I said, grabbing Sarah's hand. We didn't stop running until we reached the car. As we sped away, I glanced in the rearview mirror, half expecting to see him following us. But the road was empty. The carnival lights grew smaller in the distance, and soon they were gone completely. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the man with the mask, standing there, waiting. We never went back to the carnival, and when we tried to look it up online, there was no record of it ever existing. To this day, I don't know what we walked into, but I'll never forget the man in the mask, and the way he watched us as we fled from the carnival of shadows.